As soon as all the arguments are over in the legislature, then the bills have either been passed or failed, and they start coming to the Secretary of State for further processing. The first stage is for the governor to either sign bills or to veto them or to let them become operative without his signature. Once we get them in this form, then they are officially filed with the Secretary of State's office. From then on, our procedure is very simple. If we get any vetoed bills, then we use this type of ballot form. And within a very short period of time, almost immediately, we send a list of all the vetoed bills to every member of the legislature. This is in order to consider what is called a veto session. If a simple majority of both houses of the legislature decide that they want to override a veto, then a veto session is called by the Secretary of State to be held within 4 days. Now, at the session, every bill that was vetoed is considered, but it takes a 2/3 vote of both houses of the legislature to override a veto.
The factors that I look at, of course, are one, the constitutionality of a bill. If it is patently unconstitutional, then I feel like I have an obligation to veto it rather than to impose an unconstitutional act on people and then have some litigant incur the expense of having it declared unconstitutional. Now, I don't always know for sure. Many times it's a serious question. I signed the package of abortion bills. I signed the package of capital punishment bills. In both instances, I have some serious reservations about the constitutionality of a few of the bills and a portion of many of them. But I signed them because it's a judgment matter. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, I vetoed an important piece of legislation, the thrust of which and the contents of which, from a philosophical standpoint, I agreed with. The one which allowed for the transfer of juvenile cases in certain instances to the district courts, criminal district courts. I vetoed it because it is clearly unconstitutional, since the jurisdiction of courts is fixed by the Constitution, and the state statute cannot undo or change a constitutional provision. I believe in that instance we should move to either remove the jurisdiction from the Constitution or constitutionally change it so that there'd be no question that the jurisdiction has been changed.
Mr. Martin, would it be correct to say that there appears to be more interest in the possibility of a veto session this time than there has been in quite a while?
Brooks, I think there's more interest being shown and more expressions indicating an interest in a veto session than there ever has been since the provision was enacted.
How long has that been? How many years?
Oh, it's been quite a while that it's been in, and of course the procedure that's required is we have to mail out these application forms to all the members of the legislature, and therefore they naturally come to this office for information about how much time they have to answer and so forth, and there has been more inquiry made, more questions about it, more interest shown than ever before.
Have you had any indication as to what piece of legislation is exciting the most interest in a veto session?
I think there's been more publicity and more inquiry about the bill that Representative Baggett had in connection with the trial of juveniles.
There have been some moves on the part of some of the legislators to try to get enough support to force a veto session. Do you expect that this will happen? Do you think there's a strong possibility of it?
I think not. I believe that those members of the legislature who, in good faith, look at the particular piece of legislation which I was forced to veto, and may I point out again, I wish that I could have signed the bill because I think it has merit insofar as what it intended to do. It just cannot be done by a state act. It has to be done in the Constitution. I think as they look at it, they will agree with me, even if they do so reluctantly, that there's just no need to have another session to pass another bill that is clearly unconstitutional. And I think the better procedure would be to get together and try to change it properly where we should, and that is in the Constitution.